Okay. So yesterday we have seen the bitwise operators. We have seen how the increment and the decrement, and how the what is the difference between the post increment and the pre increment. See, now once I start the class, I cannot go once again to accept your invitations here. So I don't know. I think the third hour class will be winded up by the 10:30, isn't it? To every one of you. So even though
Yes.
if there is any problem, do message me 15 minutes early to that, so that I can wait for another 10 minutes after the 10:30 as well. Okay. Okay. So we have seen the how what is the difference between the post increment and the pre increment. Even I have clarified with you this example where we had some confusion over there. Okay. So we have seen what are the different bitwise operators that are being supported there, and we have seen the what are the bitwise logical operators that we can use, the like or operator, and operator, XOR, and the unary operators. And we have seen how the left shift is being carried out. Okay, so I have discussed some of the characteristics that you need to follow while doing the left shift. Okay, so you can see by doing the left shift, we are going to wave off the whatever has been left shifted, and we are going to fill it by 0. But in case of the integer, even though it seems to be waved off, the bits are going to be preserved until and unless it crosses the 32 bit in case of the integer, and the 64 bits in case of the long. Okay, so coming to the next concept, we'll see how we can perform the right shift here. Okay, so do not just get confused that for the left shift you are going to shift the left side bits, and you are going to just put the zeros at the right hand side. Okay, so this is going to be exactly same. It is not going to be exactly the same with the right shift. So the characteristics or the steps that are involved with the right shift is going to be different as compared to the left shift. So for that, do concentrate here what is done with the right shift. Okay, so the right shift operator is with this where you are going to use it with the double greater than symbols. And what does it will do is it shifts all of the bits in a value to the right a specified number of the times. So how it will be indicated, it the value which needs to be shifted followed by the right shift operator followed by the num. So what does this num is going to have is this is going to consist a numeric value to tell that for how many times the right shifting needs to be done. Okay, for example, you can see here a is an integer variable which has been assigned with a value 32. Okay, so in the next expression you can see here a has been right shifted by the 2 times. That is 2 bits needs to be done with a right shift. Okay, so the directly the result has been given here as a now contains as a value a. Okay, so how does it is done here? Okay, so we'll see how does it is done. So what is the 32 binary representation of the number 32 here?
0000.
0001.
0011. 32 binary representation in terms of the 8 bits. Isn't this?
Double zero
In
one
terms,
Yes, ma'am.
double zero double zero zero.
is it correct? Whatever I have written here,
Yes, ma'am.
it is a 32 bit, 32 integer expressed in the binary bits in terms of the 8 bits. Right. So to this, what needs to be done here is you are going to do the 2 bits right shift. That means these 2 bits needs to be, if it is a left shift you are going to shift this side, that is the left hand side. If you are going to do the right shift you are going to move the right bits of it. So how many times it has to be shifted? 2 times. So for the first time only this 0 will be shifted. So we'll see how it is done here. Right. So this 0 has been shifted, and since you are moving all these 3 bits here, you are going to move this over here. So that means this 0 will be shifted here, and 1 will be shifted here. This 0 is shifted here, and this 0 is shifted here, and the last bit you are going to fill it with a 0. So this the what the characteristics that is followed here is not filling always the 0. It is going to be filled with the whatever the preceding value do you have here. Right. So once you shift, the preceding value is this 0, and the same value needs to be filled here after shifting. Okay. So this is the first rotation. This is the first rotation. Since the value 2 has been taken for the shifting here, you need to do one more rotation here. So what rotation does it lies here? This 0 is going to be shifted. That means this 0 is needs to be vacated here. That means you start shifting from here. So we'll see here. So 0 followed by the 0, 0, 0, 0, 0 followed by 1 and rest of the 3 zeros. Is it so? This is the
Yes,
with
ma'am.
respect to the second rotation. So why you have filled it 0 here? Because the preceding value is 0. So do not get confused with the left shift what we have done yesterday. So here in the right shift, the procedure involved here is, so whenever you do shifting, so whatever the position that is left as a vacant at the left hand side, it needs to be filled with the preceding value. So this value is going to be left vacant. So you are going to fill which value here? The one which is having at the preceding. That means the 0 is over here. So the same value needs to be filled here. Okay. So this is what is the resultant after doing the right shifting of the 32 integer by the two positions. Right. So what will be the decimal value for this?
08.
It is 8.
08.
08. Right. So which is equivalent to the 8. That is what is resultant over here. Okay. So what happens if you do the shifting with the integer 35? This is with respect to the 32, right? So what will be the result if you do the same kind of the, what will be the result if you do the same kind of the operation with the 35?
8 only, ma'am.
8 only, right? So no need to explain it once again, right? So do again convert it to the binary bits and do shift with the two values and check out what you are going to get as a equivalent to the decimal. So you are going to get still again 8. So why is that so?
Same, ma'am.
Same value you are going to get over there. Okay. So each time you shift a value to the right, it divides the value by 2. So one thing you can observe here is, so whenever you do the right shifting, so no matter whichever the integer you take, not only the 32 to 35, you can experiment this with the any integer of your choice. And once you do the right shifting by the value 2, so if you in general you can observe that it is going to divide exactly that integer by the 2, the integer value by the 2. So if you divide it by the 2, it is exactly dividing it value by the 2 over there, isn't it? Okay. So we'll see what happens if you do the same operation with the negative number value here. Since it is a right shift, it can be considered with the signed integers. That means you can operate it both on the positive integer as well as the negative integer here, right? So when you are right shifting the right, the top bits exposed by the right shift are filled with the previous contents of the top bit. That's what I told you. Whenever you are going to right shift, the vacant position at the left shift needs to be filled with the previous contents. That is, if it is a 1, it is going to be filled with a 1. If it is a 0, it is going to be filled with a 0. So this kind of this shifting is said to be as a sign extension, and this is done to preserve the sign of the negative numbers, right? So in case of the positive, it might not cause you any difference over there, but if you do it on negative, you can observe that the sign, this is going to be done explicitly to preserve the sign of that number. That is, if it is a negative, it is going to be preserved with a negative only. So we'll experiment once again with this negative number here. So the value that is considered here is -8. So can anyone tell me how to convert the negative integer to the binary representation?
Ma'am, by taking 2's complement.
Yes, by taking the 2's complement. So I hope you know how to do the 2's complement, right? So those who don't know, have a put little concentration over here, right? So first you arrange the binary representation of the 8 number. So which is this one, right? So this is the binary representation of the 8, isn't it? So how to do the 2's complement is, first you need to convert this to the 1's complement. 1's complement in the sense every bit needs to be inverted here. So if it is a 0, make it as a 1. Correct? So this is the 1's complement. This is said as a 1's complement over here. Right. So to this, how to do the 2's complement is, simply you need to,
Add 1, ma'am.
yes, simply you need to add 1 to this last bit. To this last bit, you need to add 1 here. Okay. So if you do so, how to do the addition of this? So 1 plus 1, it is 1 0. 1 plus 1, it is 1 0. I hope you know the how to do the binary additions. Right. So if it is a 1 plus 1, the resultant will be the 1 0. If it is 0 plus 1, the resultant is 1. And if the operation is on 1 plus 0, again the resultant is 0. 0 plus 0, it is 0. Only in case of 1 plus 1, the resultant is 1 0, where the 1 is carried out to the next bit here. So if you do so, go on writing here. It is quite difficult for me to write here. I will directly write the addition resultant over here. If you want, you can check it out. So 1 plus 1, it is 1 0. So again, if you carry out 1 here, again it is 1 plus 1, 1 0 here, right? So again here 1 and carried out 1, 1 plus 1, it is 1 0. And here it is 0 plus 1, 1. And the rest of the bits are going to remain same here. So this is said to be as the binary representation of the -8. Okay, so this is how you need to do the binary representation of the -8 here. Okay. So one thing you can observe here, so this itself is a binary representation of the 8. Is it? Simply 8.
Yes.
Right. So to preserve the negativity of it, you can see here the last bit has been preceded to the next 4 bits here. Okay, so even though you go with the 2's complement, you are going to get the binary representation of the negative number. So in simplicity, if you consider it is in a this shift language, so you can see here the last bit, that is the leftmost bit, what you are going to get with a positive value, the same number is going to be repeated for the next bits, in order to say that the negative sign is going to be preserved for that. Is it? Right. So to this, what is done in this example is one right shifting has been done here, right? So one bit needs to be moved over there. So what will be the resultant after that? Can you tell me what will be the resultant if you do the one right shifting over there? This bit needs to be shifted. Then the value will be the resultant will be this. If you move this right shift, this 0 will be shifted here, this 0 will be shifted here, this 1 will be shifted here, this 1 will be shifted here, this 1 is shifted here, this 1 is shifted here, and this 1 is shifted here. So this is going to be the vacant position then. Then what needs to be filled over here? As I told you, for the right shifting, this position is going to be filled with the value what is at the previous one. If it is 0, it will be filled with the 0. If it is 1, it is filled with the 1 over here. Is it correct? Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So can you tell me what is the value of this?
252, ma'am.
FCH.
If you consider the entire thing, it is a 252, since it is a negative integer. So how to get the exact decimal value with respect to the negative for this? Once again, go for doing the 2's complement and tell me what value will get for this. Once again, do the 2's complement on this resultant, because you have applied it on a negative integer, so you cannot directly convert this to the decimal representation. If it is performed on the negative integer, to get to know what is the actual representation of the decimal number, once again you have to go for the 2's complement over here. So check it out, what you will get. Check it out whether you
4.
will be able to get it as a 4 or not.
Yes,
Yes. 4,
ma'am.
ma'am.
4, right? So that is nothing but the resultant as a -4, isn't it? Since it is a negative representation over here, you can see 0, 1, 2, right? So it is a -4 over here. Okay, so this is how the right shifting is done with the positive integers and the negative integers. So this procedure is very simple over here. If it is a positive integer, you can just shift the right side bits, and at the vacant left side bits, you need to fill the preceding values over there. In case of the negative integer, you can convert first the negative integer into the binary representation using the 2's complement, then do the shifting, and after that, while converting to the resultant, again go for doing the 2's complement over there. Okay, so am I clear over here? Is it clear? Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so coming to the next one, where we are going for the unsigned right shift. Okay, so the previous one, what we did, the right shift is for the signed numbers, where you are going to do it for both the positive as well as the negative numbers. In case if you come across the some characters or the sum of the notations where you have to do it only for the positive side, so at that time you have to go for using the unsigned right shift. So in these cases, you will generally want to shift a 0 into the higher order bit, no matter what is its initial value was. So the exactly how you did it in the left shifting, if you are doing it, if you want to do it even if the right shifting, then that kind of shifting is said to be as the unsigned shift. Okay, so the notation that is used for the unsigned right shift is triple greater than symbols. So as compared with this, where you use the double greater than symbols, in this case you are going to use the triple greater than symbols here. Okay, so the following code tells you how it is done here. So here the A is set to the -1, so which sets all the 32 bits to the 1 in the binary number. Okay, so this value is then shifted right with the 24 positions. So 24 bits needs to be shifted, filling the top 24, that is the left hand side 24 bits is filled with the zeros, ignoring the normal sign extension. So this kind of shifting is said to be as the unsigned right shift. Even though if you have the negative integer, you are going to fill the rest of the positions with the positive integers over there, right? So kind of first, if you have given the minus as a symbol, the same way to get it the binary representation of it, go for doing the 2's complement. So if you perform the 2's complement in terms of the 32 bits, this is the result that you get for the -1 binary number. Okay, so if you want, you can do it. So binary representation for the 1 is 1 followed by the rest of the zeros here, and go for the 1 complement and +1, for which you will get this as a resultant for the -1 binary representation. To which what you need to do is 24 bits needs to be right shifted here. So 24 till here, right? So every one is going to be shifted. So the rest of the 24 vacant positions from the left side is going to be filled 0 if it is a unsigned right shift, no matter whatever the value that you have at the preceding level. Okay, so everything will be shifted 0. So if you convert this thing back to the integer, you are going to get the result as a 255 over here. So this is how the unsigned right shift is done. Okay, is it clear?
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, so the coming to the next concept here is bitwise operator compound assignments. So which is just to give you a knowledge that this is also the way how you can write the expressions in the bitwise compound assignment. So you have seen this expression where you are going to do the right shifting with a double greater than and 4. And if you have the same variable to store the result, you can use the writing the expression in this way also. Instead of writing in this entirety, you can just use the a variable or the value followed by the double shift and followed by the equal to followed by the value by which you want to do the shifting here, right? So if you have the similar way of operating the other bitwise operators as well, as in this case a is equal to a or b, you can simply write it as a or is equal to b, which is equivalent to this writing this expression. Okay, so both are the one and the same. So if you have the same values to store and same values to perform, you can write it in a shorthand like this. Coming to the next operators, relational operators here. So these are the relational operators which you might be using in the various conditional statements. Okay, so again, these are not the new thing that you are studying here. The same operators you might have used in the other programming languages also, right? So double equal to is to do the comparison whether the two operands are equal to or not. So in brief, I'll be just telling you for what purpose each of these operators are used. Even though if any of you are not aware of these operators, if you are having any confusion, stop me there itself and you can ask me for what purpose it is used. Okay, so the first operator is double equal to symbol, which is a equal to symbol to check whether the two operands are equal to or not. So all these operators are going to give you the result in the form of the true or false. Okay, so all these results by default they will give you whether the resultant is true or false based upon the operands. Okay, so the next symbol operator is not equal to check whether the two operands are not equal to or not. If it is not equal to, then it will give the result as a true. If it is equal to, it will give the result as a false in this case. Okay, so this is a greater than symbol to check whether the left operand is greater than the right operand or not. If it is greater than the left operand is greater, then it will give the result as a true. In the other case, it will give the result as a false. So similarly, less than, so to check whether the left operand is less than the right operand or not. If it is less, it will give the result as a true, or else it will give the result as a false. So similarly, with the greater than or equal to, less than or equal to. So it will check even for the greater as well as equal to. Here also it will check for the lesser than or equal to. So one simple example has been given here. You can see A has been initialized with the value 4 and B has been initialized with the value 1. To store result of this for the relational operator, you require the of the type boolean. Why? Because this relational operator will give the result in the term of the true and false. Okay, so you can see here if A is less than B, it will give the result true, for which you are going to store it in a variable C of the type boolean. So if it is a type of boolean, it is going to store the value in the terms of the true or false. Okay. So coming to the next set of the operators is Boolean logical operators. This is the relational operators. These are the Boolean logical operators. Okay, so which are exactly similar with the bitwise operators that we have just seen. Okay, so this is a logical AND operator, logical OR operator, logical exclusive OR, and this is said to be as the short circuit OR. I tell you why it is these two terms are said to be as a short circuit OR or the short circuit AND operator here. Okay, so follow to that unary NOT operator and assignment operator, or assignment, XOR assignment, equal to and not equal to, and this is said to be the ternary if then else. So follow to these slides, we'll have the discussion on the ternary and we'll have the discussion on the short circuit, how they are used and why they are required to be used in the any program. Okay, so this is an just example to show you that how this Boolean logical operators are going to work. So as in case with the bit operators, where they are going to be operated on the bits 0 and 1, these these Boolean operators are going to work on the Boolean values. So which are the two Boolean values? The two Boolean values are the true and false itself. The values true and false are said to be the Boolean values, right? So the whereas the behavior of these operators, that is the either or, and, or the exclusive or the unary, is going to say. So in the earlier cases that we have discussed with respect to the bitwise, we have discussed it with the zeros and the ones, where 0 is going to indicate as a false, whereas the 1 is going to indicate as a true, right? So the same case is here with the true and false. So or in the sense, if any one is true, it is going to give you as a result as a true. If both are false, it will give you the result as a false. So same as case with the AND operator, isn't it? So when is going to give the result as a true if both the values are true. If any one is false, it is going to give you the result as a false here. Okay. So exclusive or it is going to give you result as a true if only one is true and other is false. If both the values are going to be same, either the false or the true, it will give you the result as a false over here. Okay. So in case of the unary, it is going to just invert the values. If it is applied on the A, you can see here false will become true and true will become false. Okay, so this is how the unary is going to be done. Okay. So this is just a simple example to show you that how the Boolean operators can be used and how you are going to get the result here. So in this case, you can see here various variables has been taken here, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, right? So what has been done initially, the two variables A and B. A has been initialized with the value true and B has been initialized with the value false here. Okay. So in the next case, what has been done, you can see here in the variable C, you have performed the A or B here. So in the case, what you will get for the result of this C? What you will get the result
True.
of this? True, right? So which is very
True.
simple. In the case of the D, what you will get the result? False. Why? Because
Yes.
and
And up.
because one of the value is false here. In the case of the E, it is exclusive OR. So what will get the result of the E? It is true, right? So I hope you remember
Yes.
the exclusive OR. How does it often? If both values are same, only at that time it will give the result as a false. In the rest of the cases, it will give the result as a true here. Okay. So in this case, to this F expression, just tell me what is done. Unary on the A, that means A will be terminated to the false. False and false, it is false. Correct? Or
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
unary on the B, it is true. True and true, it is true. Right. So false
True.
or
True,
true,
ma'am.
it is true. So F value will
True.
be true. So you can see here the F value is true here. So similarly to the next case, unary of the A, G is
False.
true, right? So that will be considered as a false here, isn't it? So this is very simple if you analyze. So this is just to demonstrate you that how you can use all these Boolean operators, and to store the result of the Boolean operators, you require the type of the variable as a Boolean. So rest of the things has been just printed over here. Okay. So coming to the next operator here is short circuit logical operators and the ternary operator here. Okay. So short circuit logical operator is the one where you are going to use the double and symbol or the double or symbol here. Okay. So what does the purpose of this using the double or symbol is? Suppose if you use a single and symbol, it is just an AND operator where it is going to check for the both the conditions, both on the left side as well as the right side. Suppose if you use this short circuit logical operator, what does this is going to do is it is only going to concentrate on the result of the left side expression. If the left side expression is true, only at that time it is going to go for the executing the right side operation. You are getting right? So if you use the double AND operator, first it is going to concentrate only on the left position of the expression. If this gives the result as a true, only at that time it will get into the execution of the right side of the expression here. So in this case, what is done here, you can see denom is a variable. This is just imagine that this is a variable to check whether the value of denom is not equal to 0. So if it is not equal to 0, then only it will execute the division of the num by denom here. Okay, so you can see here, it will not going to check this condition. Instead, it is just going to execute this statement. It will not check over here. So it will check only this part. If this is a true, then only it will be executed here. So same as case with the OR as well. Okay, so what does the intention of the double OR over here? So double AND in the sense this is true, then only this will be executed, right? So double OR in the sense, if the first part is true itself, then it will give the result as a true without checking the right hand side expression over there. Okay. So in that case, you can in if any of the expressions have the such expressions to be checked, at the time you can go for using the short circuit AND operator and the short circuit OR operator. Okay. So coming to the ternary operator, where it is going to involve the three expressions here. Okay. So what does this is going to do here is, I'll explain with you here with an example only, then only you will get to know. But before that, you just understand the what is the syntax that is being used here. So the syntax is expression 1, question mark, expression 2, colon, and the expression 3 here. Okay, so this is how you need to use the this ternary operator here. So what this question mark will do here is, expression 1 is going to be the condition. If this condition is true, this expression will be executed. Expression 2 will be executed. If the expression 1 is false, directly the expression followed by the colon will be executed. Expression 3 will be executed. That means the question mark will decide whether the expression 2 has to be executed or the expression 3 has to be executed based on the resultant of this expression 1. Okay, so we'll see with an example with this program here. Okay, so you can see here in this example, two variables has been taken of the type integer I and k, where the I is stored with the value 10 here. To this k, we are going to store some value based upon the question mark operator here. Okay, you can see here the condition is whether I is less than 0, right? So question mark minus I, this expression, this value, this needs to be executed only if this case is true, or else directly it has to go to the execution of this expression. Okay, so I is 10, whether I is less than 0, no, right? So if I is 10, I is not less than 10, that means this will not be executed. Instead, this is going to be executed. That means k will be initialized with directly I, that is 10. Okay, so you can see here that value has been printed. Absolute value of that I is k is printed here. So you can see here 10 is printed. So we'll see one more expression where I has been once again initialized with the value minus 10 here. Okay, so what has been done here? So it will, the question mark will first check the condition whether I is less than 0, minus 10 is less than 0. Yes, right. So it is true. That means this part will be executed here. So minus of minus 10, minus of I is minus 10, right? So minus of minus 10 will be executed. So that means 10 will be stored in the k. So the same thing has been printed once again here. So the absolute value of minus 10 is 10 here. Getting? Got an idea?
Getting.
Okay. So got an idea how this question mark operator is going to be evaluated? Okay.
Yes.
So this is the end of the, sorry, one more concept is there, operator precedence. So I think all of you know about this precedence. What is precedence? Whenever you have the expression having the all the multiple operators within that, so how does the compiler is going to decide which operator needs to be evaluated first, right? So the Java is going to work upon this table to decide which operator needs to be evaluated first, that is which one is given the highest precedence level here. So the parenthesis or the square bracket or dot is having the highest precedence as compared to this. So the table itself indicates you the what is the precedence level that needs to be considered. The highest is the one which is at the first row. So the second highest is the second row. You can go through this table and accordingly the each operator is given the precedence to get to know the which one is evaluated first if the expression consists of the multiple operators. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so this completes the chapter of the operators. So this chapter has been introduced only to give you knowledge regarding how the different operators is being supported by the Java. Okay, so whereas you can use these operators in the programs. Okay, so I'll tell you what are the possible questions that can be framed on these chapters that will let you know how to study this chapter. Okay. So follow to this chapter, you have the next chapter as a control statements, where you are going to study all the control statements and the loops. Okay, so that you have for the Java, which involves completely the programming part. Okay, so which I'm going to start in the next class. Okay, so with this, this chapter is completed. That is one chapter from the second module is completed. So one more chapter is remaining, that is the control statements, which may require the much time as compared to this chapter. Okay, so which I am going to continue it in the next class. Okay, so before I